Hi everyone, Jessica Peterson with Wild Willow Wellness again. I'm back for my second video, and in this video what I want to talk about is the actual products for my apothecary, and then I also want to share a little bit of info about how I got started, and hopefully that'll give you some information and resources in order to maybe start your own apothecary. I think I'll take a moment right here too and say that you can find me on Instagram, you can find me on Facebook, and you can also find me at www.wildwillowwellness.com, and I'm available if you have questions. Feel free to pop me an email or send me a direct message or Facebook message. Okay, so let's launch into, oh, by the way, I'm drinking some chaga tea. The chaga is actually off of my land in Bayfield, Wisconsin, and it's a really beautiful drink, warm. It's so lovely on a fall day like this. Okay, I'm going to show you what's in my apothecary. Hold on. So because it's fall, my apothecary offering right now, my share is a fall winter immunity share. So this is the package. It's all in compostable material. That's really important to me. This year I actually transferred from using plastic tops for a few of my bottles to working with cork tops. Not all of the tops yet, but I actually would like to have them all be cork tops in the next couple of years, maybe even by next year. So one of the first products I'll share with you, and I'm going to do this really quickly and not share all the ingredients, so but this is my fire cider, really popular. People love it. I get a lot of requests for refills on this. I have an elderberry syrup here that I make, and I showed you elderberries from the last video, so those are grown here. As much as possible, I'm wanting everything to be grown here on Wild Willow Wellness Farm, and my goal is, like, within the next few years that would be the case, that everything pretty much would be coming off of my land in terms of what's grown for the apothecary. So the elderberries are all coming from the farm now, so that's really exciting. This is the first year for that. This is my winter immunity tincture, echinacea, elderberry, bone set, lots of yummy stuff in there. This is a tea. It's a cold season relief tea. 1.5 ounces, got to shake it up because everything's a different weight. And this is just a lovely tea to help people with respiratory ailments that they're having. This is my propolis herbal throat spray. So also has yummy propolis, obviously, and echinacea and thyme and other good stuff. And this is my cold and congestion balm. So with this, it has a ton of different essential oils that help to kind of clear the nasal passages or open up the chest, or you can rub it on your feet. And then it also has, I've done oil infusions with cayenne pepper and ginger, and sometimes I do juniper berries, but I didn't do juniper berries this year, but that's also in there. Now as I'm sharing this share with you, I'm smelling this amazing lavender smell, and so I think I'll just highlight with all my bags, there's like a little flower garnish or herb, and it's just dried and from my own garden, and it's just a nice touch. People like it. They can either make a tea from my garnishes, or they're just beautiful usually, or smell really nice. Something I want to say about my apothecary is it's a CSA model, so community supported ag model, or when I was doing some research online, I saw that there were community supported apothecary models. So I think first and foremost, if you're thinking about doing any kind of business, an apothecary being one of them within permaculture, you want to do a lot of research, and you want to figure out, like, what's already happening out there, how can I build upon what's already being done. You don't have to reinvent the wheel on a lot of this stuff. There's ways to get creative and build a regenerative business based on existing models that are out there. One thing I'll say that I would recommend is to go online and just Google, best practices for business, or like top 10 things that make a business fail or succeed. And those are great ways to get started because there's some universal principles for having a good business. You know, one thing being like tenacity, perseverance, being willing to wake up and do something again, even if you're not quite sure it's gonna work, but if you love it. So all of these things are, even if you're doing like a business that isn't permaculture oriented or is very conventional, those are great things, great, I guess, elements or components of a good business. And so those are the same as if you're also going to do a permaculture business. So don't be, I guess, afraid, or don't be reserved, I guess, about looking at sort of conventional models for things to apply some of those learned, tried and true methods towards your regenerative business. So that said, this is my form that I give to all of my shareholders. And the way my apothecary runs is a shareholder model. And so what that means is they get a contract every year, and the contract expresses that they own a lot of the ingredients on my farm, or like the plants or the seeds. So very much like a community supported ag model where you are purchasing the seeds along with the farmer. My members are purchasing the plants. They are saying that they're co-invested in my plants, and they are, and so we are all responsible for the products that come from those plants. And what I am simply doing is preparing our shared owned ingredients into a recipe. And so that's just a really great way to have a model for many reasons. Number one, it's a way to maybe have a business that isn't conventional, that maybe there isn't like a particular permitting process for, where you're sharing some of the risk. And so for me, being such a small business, being, 100 families or less, that was important to me. I wanted to be able to have a sense of community around the ingredients. I wanted to have a sense of stability, that people were invested in me as a farmer. So what that means is that people, what it says in my contract is that people can come by, they can see all of my practices in terms of how I'm farming, they can see how I'm cooking things, how I am tincturing. They can always access all the ingredients. I'll share any recipes that they want. So like if I have a member who is just loving the elderberry syrup, and they're buying tons and tons, and they just say, you know what, I really just want to make it and see what that's like, I will give them the recipe. It's their recipe as well. And I guess a part of my goal with this business is that other people will learn about how to use plant medicine, because I think we'll all be better off if the entire community knows about plant medicine. So I'm not, like, I guess, competitive in that way with the people I'm serving. I share all the knowledge, I share the recipes, and I just know that there will always be some people who don't want to make. And so even if they learn and all of that, because we all have different roles to play in a community, so I feel very comfortable and safe, I guess, in the idea that there will always be people who want what I'm doing, even if that kind of fluctuates and changes. I think I'll just make a little plug here about wildcrafting versus growing, because this is something that's really important to my heart. I love wildcrafting. I think it's a beautiful practice. I guess my belief is that if everyone were to wildcraft right now in the world, we would just simply run out of everything. We don't know how to manage landscapes as a culture anymore, as many people did years and years ago. And so what I believe very strongly is this idea that we leave behind more than what we take as humans. And so I think when we are working with plant medicine, as little as possible do we want to be harvesting from places outside of our homes, and instead what we want to do is, as much as possible, understand how to grow the medicine we need in our own yards, so that we are constantly managing and replenishing the medicine that we are using and taking. And I also think that when we leave those plants in the forest, that we're leaving them for the animals and also for the other plants, because actually medicinal plants are not just medicinal plants for people, they are medicinal plants for animals and for soils and worms and insects and all of that sort of thing. So I think, I think I said plants. Anyway, so I'm really in favor of people growing their medicine rather than wild crafting. So that's just my plug on that. And I imagine there's other ideas out there that I'd be interested to hear. So CSA model form, everybody signs this. They don't get a share until they sign it. They are able to purchase 1 share a year and be a member. And so my shares cost $90. That is an amount that made sense for me. It was something that made sense given what I had researched that others were charging. And it's a little bit of a deal for people if they buy a share rather than individual retail products at the store, then they are going to get, it's going to be a little bit less for them to buy that share. What it does for me as a business person is it allows me to know that I'm going to have these $90 packages that are paid for ahead of time, rather than a situation where, say, people are coming over and they're like, oh, I'm interested, what do you have? And then they buy maybe the little $10 container of something, or they don't, but you've just spent 45 minutes to an hour chatting with them. It's so fun to chat with people, and that community piece is really important to me. And yet I can't emphasize enough how important it is to get a good amount of money, or if you're trading for something of value that isn't money but something else, just to make sure that you're getting the value for your work. Yeah, that's what I want to say about that. So I've showed you all the products from my immunity share, and I won't show you all the products from my other 2 shares, but I'll just tell you that I have a share that's for the nervous system, and I have a share that is for like the spring. It's kind of a detox, like replenish. There's a lot of adaptogenic herbs to kind of, you know, bring us out of winter and get us ready for all that amazing fun we have in the spring and summer, and all those extra days of light and stuff. So, and I'm in process of developing more shares, and I think one of the things I'll also share about my business model is it's very connected with my local community. So I've told you it's members. I feel very strongly that they're investing in me as a farmer and also as a person. It has strengthened my relationships with a lot of people in the community, and as I've mentioned, it's really easy to get caught up in conversation, and that actually ends up feeling really, really good, because the model that I've created allows me and affords me enough income where I have time to have those kind of conversations and I'm not feeling rushed. Another thing about my CSA model is I do gatherings. So a big part of my model is having some sort of connective way that people can talk about plants, or can talk about their health, or can talk about how it is that they want to shift away from pharmaceuticals, or, you know, how they would like better healthcare in the United States. So I really enjoy gathering around the apothecary, where these kind of conversations seem to readily happen more often than they do kind of in conventional conversations. And so I usually do between like 2 and 4 gatherings each year. I make the pickup time for the shares a time of gathering. So just recently with my immunity share, I actually decided to distribute it on my birthday, because I'm so grateful to my members that they are supporting me in this way, and I was just really excited to share all these recipes with them. And so my daughter and I had pressed some apple cider at a party earlier in the weekend, and so a couple of days later we actually were able to serve that cider as little toasts to all the people as they came to pick up their shares, and people chatted. I got to like share the the sea berry oxymel, and so just like really beautiful connecting time. Another thing about my CSA model is I am hoping to encourage other people to start their own models. So I often talk about not wanting to exceed 100 families as my members. I have about 62 family members right now. I'm going to be increasing that by the end of this year. So right now it's September, and I'm going to be doing some more outreach to new people in October, and so maybe I'll hit 100 this winter, who knows. But I'm going for that and not really anything higher. I want to play around with that 100 number. And what I would really like is for some people, maybe some members, to feel really interested in what I'm doing and feel like maybe they would want to try it, and then have them begin some plantings in their yard and have them start developing some relationships and some memberships, because I really envision this apothecary being the first of many in Helena, where we just completely explode this idea of perennial medicinal plants in our community that don't need very much water, that are great for alkaline soils, and where people just get to feel amazing growing these plants and having community around it, like I feel. So that's my vision, is sharing that knowledge and having, you know, groups of 100 families, maybe all over Helena, where we just have tons of medicinal gardens. So that's an exciting thought for me. Let me see here. I think one of the other things that I would like to share, oh, yes. So one of the things that I've noticed that I think is really valuable this is my 3rd year, is that people do like some variability with their products. So what I've been hearing from people now in this 3rd year is, hey, like we use a lot of elderberry, we use a lot of fire cider or throat spray, but we're not using like cold and congestion balm or tea, or so I think that can be a little bit unnerving, because it's like, oh gosh, wait, this is supposed to be shares, and I am creating these products and I'm wanting everybody to like them, but the reality is that people will fluctuate in their tastes. And so how is it that we can meet the needs while also educating about seasonal plants, or that we can't always have everything we want? That's a bit of the problem, right, in consuming, is that we don't get to have everything we want all the time, that's a part of the consumer culture that's actually not regenerative for us. And so a couple of ways that I've thought about that I'm still playing with, but I'll share with you, is number one, when a member says to me, I want to trade something out, immediately I say yes, like in that moment, but I also treat it as a moment for some education on the very thing that I was just talking about. So talking about what a CSA model is about. So a CSA model is about supporting what it is that the farmer actually grows, or what it is that they produce. And so there's an element there of working with what you get, rather than getting like everyone choosing elderberry and then I run out of elderberry, or if everyone wants like 5 bottles of elderberry and nothing else, right? That's more of that monoculture business model. And so it's an opportunity to talk with folks about that, and like that seasonal eating piece. The other thing that I am going to be trying out is I will be trying out how to maybe do like a surprise package. So maybe I have customers who are with me for a couple of years, and then they start to get this itch of like, oh, what's new? Like, what else can I have? And I think what I'm going to do for them is offer like an immunity package, but like a surprise package. And so they will pay the same price, but they won't know what they're getting. They'll know that they're getting immunity support, but that it's not going to be the same thing, and so they're not having this feeling that like something's sitting in their medicine cabinet for too long. I am realizing, because I'm not using any sheets of paper to help guide me and outline, that I didn't tell you how I initially got started. So let me just tell you that very quickly, and then I'm going to have some information on my website for you as well, as some resources to help you get started. So that's wildwillowwellness.com. The way that I got started actually was, first of all, this is not something I'd recommend necessarily, but I started making the products before I reached out, and that was just because I wanted to make sure that I could make them and that they would be yummy and all of that. So that's what I did. And then I had this huge listserv because of other work I do in the community. I'm actually a socioeconomist. My master's degree is in socioeconomics, and I do a lot of community organizing, and I do fundraising, and we had designed the 6-word garden park, which is this edible park in Helena. So major list of names and emails. And what I did was I constructed an email, and I had done that research about CSA models, and I basically described it. I didn't take too long, because emails, you don't want to get too long with those. And I said, hey, I'm doing this, and I'd love to share some information about it, and I'd love to just have an event where you come and try things, and I tell you about this vision, and I'd ask you to invest at this visionary discussion. And so I probably sent it to 800 people, and I had 25 people show up to the first meeting. And of those people that showed up, I think about 21 ended up purchasing a share. And so I had, everything ready for people to try. It was not the bottle, I love my labels now. When I first showed it to them, I didn't have the labels as beautiful as they are now. So don't worry about having everything perfect, but do gather people, and do be connective, and do share what's in your heart about why you're doing what you're doing. And it's going to be a lot of friends. It's going to be, in my case, the people that connected with my apothecary were women, bringing that medicine home to their families. And I kept in touch with them then, and I said to them at that meeting, I said, this will be available in 3 weeks, and I kept that promise. And I've been building it ever since, and a lot of it's word of mouth. And I have other meetings where I call, I put out an event notice, and people attend, and I've had mixed results with that. So there can be a lot of people or not very many. But I would say the main thing that I can recommend with starting any regenerative business, and I do recommend doing an apothecary if you're interested, is to make sure that you have other income streams coming in, so that you can really build on this passion work, and not get too exhausted, or don't put all your eggs in one basket, so to speak. So just as I'm closing this conversation, I will tell you that I'm a socioeconomist, and so I get consulting work to do community organizing, and I have to work pretty hard to market myself to get that work, so I don't have that work all the time. And I didn't want to just take any clients, so a few years back I decided to go to massage therapy school, so that I could always weather any financial drought times, and not have to take projects or clients I didn't want. And so that's been a really great thing. I love giving massage, and it's also it's one of these it's really good for people, it's good for our bodies, it's good for my body. It's a really straight exchange, whether it's trade or money. There's a set amount, and that's been really good to weather the drought times. I have renters, so I've mentioned to you, I'm a co-parenting mom, so I live as a single woman in my house, and I've had renters the past few years for both of my extra bedrooms, and they also do farm work trades with me, so that's really nice too. And what else do I do? Yeah, I think that's it with the apothecary. So, biggest thing is to try not to get stressed out financially. Love what it is you're doing. Choose something that, there's so many things to pick in the world to do that are going to make our world a better place, a more regenerative place. And so choose what it is you can do, what you want to do, and then what's needed, what's needed in your community. Understand that community niche, and if an apothecary is needed, which it probably is just about everywhere, then yeah, I wish you the best of luck. And as I've said, please feel free to reach out. I'm gonna get some resources up here on my website, hopefully pretty quickly, so that you can go and have a look and get some more help. In fact, I think what I'll do is get that initial email I sent out, because I think that was so important, just to break that wall, that initial barrier of like, what do I even say about this? So I hope that'll be really helpful for you, those of you who are thinking about how to reach out about a particular business idea, working on a new venture. So, all right, thank you so much, Jessica Peterson, Wild Willow Wellness, and I'm so grateful to have been able to share some of this info with you. Good night.